Joining me now is energy expert and author of The Moral Case for Fossil Fuels, Alex Epstein. Alex, I think as we enter this conversation, let's just take a look back and illustrate one more time how wrong so many on the left have been, most notably Paul Ehrlich. Here he is on 60 Minutes.
I know there's no political will to do any of the things that I'm concerned with, which is exactly why I and the vast majority of my colleagues think we've had it, that the next few decades will be the end of the kind of civilization we're used to.
He just keeps predicting, Alex, the end of civilization.
Yeah, for sure. When that 60 Minutes interview came out, I posted about this because I said, this guy has a track record of being 180 degrees wrong for 50 years, and we shouldn't listen to him. And then Elon, I think, retweeted or commented on that and said, yeah, and he was right. Ehrlich has a very deep hatred of humanity. And one thing I talk about in my books, The Moral Case for Fossil Fuels and Fossil Fusion, we've talked in long form on your podcast before, is there's a deep anti-humanism that says it's wrong for humans to impact the planet in any way, and therefore we should try to rid the planet of our impact. But if you believe that, then you believe ultimately the planet shouldn't have humans. And I think ultimately the CO2 catastrophe thing, there's no catastrophe argument. They just don't like the fact that we're having a big impact on the planet.
Boy, that is exactly right. That is the thematic through line to all of these alarmist and dystopian predictions about the climate. Even the overpopulation predictions, they ultimately show a real hatred of people, of humanity.
Yeah, I mean, the late P.J. O'Rourke had this great chapter title in his book, and it was Overpopulation, Just Enough of Me, Way Too Much of You. And that's the mentality. But you take somebody like Michael Mann, who's one of our leading designated experts. He's been in court again recently. He says, the planet shouldn't have 8 billion people. It should have 1 billion people. Well, that is a genocidal agenda beyond anything comprehensible. You're basically rooting for just global thermonuclear war at this point. And yet people say this and they're taken seriously. And again, it's because we have this idea there's something wrong with us. There's something wrong with our impact. And I say, no, it's good that we impact the planet. Just like it's good that bears and lions and beavers and birds impact the planet. It's good that we impact the planet, and we're better at it than they are. And we should be proud of that.
Well, we began the show today talking to the Attorney General Pam Bondi about the legal wranglings that are stopping so many of these executive orders. So while the EPA's orders have now been stopped by Judge Chutkan, we'll leave that to the legal analysis. But the practical effect of unleashing American energy has a substantial impact on human flourishing. Fossil fuel, oil and gas, good for humanity. Here's just some of the things that Alex has pointed out and many others that has helped flourishing of humanity. By the way, there's nothing to replace it. No wind, no solar can get in the place and replace the way it has unleashed industry, unleashed everything, including our ability to grow more food, Alex, to prove those overpopulation predictions wrong.
Yeah, for sure. Fossil fuels, I call it the food of food, because they provide the fertilizer through natural gas, and they power these amazing machines like combine harvesters that make agricultural workers 1,000 times more productive. I'll just say one thing about unleashing energy right now. So I think the real issue that we have in front of Congress is, are you going to repeal the destructive IRA, or as President Trump has called it, the Green New Scam? Right now, unfortunately, a lot of Republicans and lobbyists are considering keeping all of these various subsidies, or each one is fighting for their own subsidy. And if this continues, we're going to keep most of a $1 trillion a decade cost that is ruining our grid because it prefers unreliable solar and wind. And 20 plus Republicans last week came out with a letter. And I like a lot of these guys, but they came out with a letter saying we need to keep a lot of these subsidies. And they singled out the solar and wind subsidies that on the grid are helping shut down natural gas plants and coal plants and are propping up way too much unreliable solar and wind. So if we don't get rid of the IRA, then it's goodbye to the grid. And I like that Elon said, I'm against all these subsidies, even though I benefit from them. That's the mentality we need across the country. Terminate the Green New Scam. That's what President Trump ran on. That's what the Republican platform said. Republicans should stand for free markets and do that.
Right. And we should point out that those EPA grants that are currently being blocked from freezing by that federal judge were issued under the Inflation Reduction Act, which every step of the way has proven
they're 1/40th of the Green New Scam.
Which is every step of the way.
Yeah, they're 1/40th of it, so we need to get rid of the whole thing.
As you point out, the Green New Scam. Alex, thanks for being with us.
Thank you.